What's going on, everybody? It's Yonas, joined here by my co-host Cameron. You're listening to the Without a Roadmap podcast. As everybody knows, it's the holiday season. It's upon us. But unfortunately, that means we don't have a new episode this week.
Yeah, we're going to be taking a couple weeks off to end the year to kind of wind down, reflect as everybody does around the New Year time. And with that said, we won't have a new episode until 2021, but we do have some exciting things planned.
Right. Yep. So the CS 101 series was a huge success. Shout out to all the guests who came on. Appreciate your knowledge. I feel like we saved a lot of money on like a Udemy class that we could have taken otherwise. But I hope that everybody found that informational, and we're about to switch things up and go back to our roots and run a series all about product. Cam, why don't you tell them a little bit about this next series?
Yeah, so we're going to be taking a deeper dive into kind of product, how it functions, how kind of we do things at product. We talked about it in the past a little bit, but in various different ways and kind of scattered across. So we just wanted to do a dedicated series again on product management, and I'm not going to give away too many details into the individual episodes we're going to be releasing, but we're super excited about it. Always fun to talk about product stuff. It helps both of us get better just to talk out loud instead of always keeping things in our thoughts or in our own brain. So super excited to do that. And to end the year, we just want to make sure that everyone is having a happy holiday, stay safe, stay healthy with the crazy times. And the only thing that we ask for is to leave us some reviews on the various podcast networks that you listen to this to.
That's the only gift we need this holiday season.
We were checking the reviews on Apple Podcasts, and we found a very interesting one from JP Hoopstar 12. So we wanted to give him a shout out on this sign off episode for the year.
Yeah, shout out to everybody who's Apple ID has been the same for the past like 2 decades. Love seeing those AIM Apple ID names.
One of these days that's going to come to haunt everybody when they become public.
But anyways, for this week's rerun, we're actually going to be re-releasing the episode about dealing with constant change. I think everybody's been dealing with this past year. I think it's the theme of 2020. Everybody's kind of had to think on their feet and kind of move accordingly. And we thought it would be a nice way to end this year out. So we hope you enjoy it. Hope you stay safe, have a happy holidays, and we look forward to catching back right up with you in the new year. I think we mentioned at the start of quarantine that our last Cam and I hosted show that we had just kind of made a little bit of a pivot in how we were thinking about Parlor, and we were like, stay tuned. We got some big changes coming, and those changes are slowly here, thanks to a lot of the work led by Cam. So kind of a recap. After quarantine, kind of, slowed down on our emphasis of, like the sales and customizations for folks in the sales pipeline, just because a lot of that kind of withered up with the kind of economic impact of the pandemic. And so we just started focusing more on longer term product vision, kind of foundational pieces to what we think, Parlor is, and also kind of longer term go-to-market activities, things that we felt would be like setting us up well for the future. And, since then, a lot of stuff happening on the product side, lots of stuff on the GTM side. The sales pipeline is back and healthy. Got some hires coming up. And so I think the first thing that might be interesting to chat about is kind of the shifts in how we're talking about Parlor, kind of the positioning and kind of the product related changes that came with that.
Yeah, for sure. I'll probably just give a little high level summary because there's a lot to get into. But I think from when Yonas and I first started in September, which is about 10 months ago from now, Parlor was trying to pitch itself as like a product discovery platform. So the main thing that we always talked about was that how historically we've always focused on the development part of actually building products and or the design part of building products, but really there's a whole step before design and development, which is pretty much discovering the stuff you should actually build that would have an impact on your customers. So we were trying to really create this new category called product discovery, which is just validating the things you're thinking of working on before you actually work on them. But during quarantine, during this whole pandemic period, we've just done dozens, hundreds, probably user interviews, and we've heard a common pain point or customer problem that everybody has all this feedback. They don't really want more feedback. They want a better way to manage this feedback and organize it in a way that's useful for them and their internal teams. And so we've kind of made this pivot into talking about Parlor as a feedback management system, where we're really going through the entire feedback lifecycle, from collecting feedback and then organizing that feedback and then prioritizing that feedback into user needs and then validating those user needs with your customers and your users. And then finally closing the loop by communicating the new updates you're making to your product and then educating your users on the new updates you're making to the product. So that entire end-to-end product feedback lifecycle. So that's really what Parlor is now, is this feedback management system.
Yeah, and this transition, it sounds really simple. Like, yeah. There wasn't a major shift in the product, but even just there's a lot of updates. But I think the biggest shift is just kind of how we're talking about it, and like exactly what Cam described, because when you get on a demo call, back when we called Parlor a product discovery platform, we talk about how we're helping you, uncover like your users, needs. People are like, man, like, I'm drowning in feedback. Like, I really don't need another, like, feedback collection tool. And, even though that was just a small part of what we offered, it was kind of how we positioned ourselves. And, now that we're referring to ourselves as a feedback management system that has collection, collect different channels to collect feedback as well, people are like, oh, phew, like, I'm already drowning in feedback. I just want to manage it, organize it, and kind of the collection piece is like a nice add-on. So
exactly, like I feel like before we used to try to like just hunt for like one thing we did to try to like latch onto it. But we have that. Like you can announce stuff in product, you can do surveys, you can do all those things. But now, like when we just say feedback management system and like the one sentence after, it's just so clear to everybody what Parlor is.
Mm-hmm. And the kind of the breakdown into these different silos. So the collect, organize, prioritize, validate, communicate, like it just sounds so much cleaner,
Yeah.
Like we are taking a horizontal slice across the top of all of those. There's tools out there that go super deep in the collection, super deep in the prioritization, but a lot of companies, especially our target demographic or target personas, are these scale ups, and they're looking for something to help them establish process around all of this work. And exactly. we want to be able to fit in nicely with their existing tools if they have them, but if they don't, great, like we can do it all. So it's just being on calls. I'm still on calls with plenty of people, and just the tone change and the shift in kind of how people are able to understand what the value of Parlor provides is very clear. And it's been exciting to kind of see how the probably like hundreds of discovery calls that we've had, and just condensing those learnings into these findings, and that leading to kind of the shift in our positioning. And now our product is like, oh, we really product managers, man, like, really about it.
Right, like we have a clear direction now, and we just know like what we need to optimize, improve, and build going forward.
Mm-hmm. So I think another interesting shift that's kind of been made is a little bit about the team. Exciting stuff happening. We do have one of our very important team members. The VP of engineering, also basically the manager of all the engineers at Parlor, is taking some time off. So it's really kind of put us in a tough position, because we got so much stuff that we're trying to do on the product side that necessitates somebody in her role. So we did look for somebody to replace her. Nobody can replace her. It's very difficult. It's only temporary. It's only temporary. The search process turned up pretty bleak, and so Keith and the management team actually leaned on our boy the one and only Cam Curry right here. And they're like, okay, we can't find anybody to fill this role. So why don't we put Cameron in there and turn him into essentially a hybrid product manager and engineering manager. And Cam has taken up this role, and I'm really impressed with the amount of work that he's been able to do, how much he's been able to learn, and the kind of efficiency with which he does this. So first off, congrats, Cam, on the
Thank you, sir.
promotion and all the great work you've been doing. I would love to hear a little bit more about what it's like on your day to day, because we kind of have diverged a little bit. Like I'm more focused on the actual kind of day-to-day product management responsibilities, whereas now a lot of what you're doing is on kind of the engineering management side. Obviously still doing PM stuff as well, but I'd love to hear a little bit about kind of your transition into this group product manager role. What that's looked like to you, and kind of your general thoughts on it.
Yeah, for sure. I think give a little context into like the discussions that were had before I actually got the role. Like Jonas said, Louise, the one and only, the GOAT of Parlor, she's going on leave for a couple of months. And then Keith kind of just came up to me and said, hey, I want to run this by you. So let me know what you think. And obviously he told me what was going on and how they're looking to fill, but also that if the person they were trying to get doesn't commit to Parlor, that I would be the one to kind of take on this new role to help fill Louise's absence when she's gone. And pretty much what our conversation turned into was that since Louise historically, since probably day one of Parlor when she joined, has been managing all like the prioritization of work being done by the different engineering teams. And before we started expanding even the engineering team and now the product to different areas, it was definitely manageable for her to help tell everybody else what they're working on as far as engineers in terms of setting priorities of what they want to work on based on what Keith and Jonah are spec'd out and designed. But really with the expansion of the product and how we've now added probably 5 engineers since we've started Yonas, I would say. Now we have I would say engineering pods that work on different areas of the platform or the product. And now we have different product areas. So going back to the 3 themes we have: collect and organize, prioritize and validate, and communicate and educate. Keith thought it was probably about time to bring some of that prioritization over and back into the product side. So actually having someone from the product drive the priorities of what engineering team is actually working on. And it kind of goes back to some of my role at Optum, where the way we set it up, it was more of a defined like Scrum Agile type of methodology going on at Optum, where you had my boss, Joellen, who was the director of product management, and then she had 3 PMs under her. And those 3 PMs were paired with like a tech lead. And so the PM and tech lead would kind of go back and forth about prioritizing what to work on next in the upcoming sprint, because there's a more defined process there. So I feel like it's kind of a similar thing to what I was doing previously at Optum in my last job, but now it's just more so working across multiple areas of the product and managing like the portfolio of products and stuff being worked on, rather than going super deep on like one area of our product, which could be like collect and organize or announce and educate. So more so just helping Louise and the engineering team just prioritize what's being worked on based on the conversations and what we need to do for the product side. And so making sure that the right thing is being worked on at the right time. And so we're delivering value consistently to our customers in order to close deals, in order to push our new feedback management system going forward. So going back to the day-to-day, I would say it definitely is. It's a lot different. It's more of answering a lot of dev questions. It's like I wake up at 6 a.m. since they're on different time difference, and I have like 10 questions to answer like right when I wake up. So it's been a little of an adjustment to make sure I'm like actually thinking clearly that early when I wake up. But it's been super fun though, this seeing how like devs think and how I kind of need to think when we're going through these product discussions of, all right, so we want to do this thing. Like, what are the steps? It's kind of like reverse engineering the vision of whatever functionality we want to build and like the steps to get there. I think that's been like the fun thing about that, like how we actually build the puzzle, I would say. Because like we have, we have a major feature going on, and it's a pretty big feature. They've been working on it for like the last 2 to 3 weeks. It's like, all right, we have this vision based on the fabulous designs by our art department, Mr. Jonah, our chief design officer. How do we, oh, sorry for the Siri. How do we get, how do we make that beautiful masterpiece you designed? Like, how do we get to the steps? Like, what do we need to have new database models? Do we need to like break it down into different phases so that we're delivering things continuously rather than just one big chunk at work at a time? Because as we'll get to later, we have these beta customers and we want to continuously provide new stuff for them every week or every 2 weeks, just so that they're staying exciting. We're building momentum with them. And so we don't want to hold things for a super big release that takes a month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I feel like this kind of goes back to people always asking if product managers have to have a technical background. Like, I feel like you're in a pretty technical role now. And you've been able to pick it up really quickly. I'm curious your thoughts on, would you say that this is almost like a technical product manager role, or, because you do have to have a deep understanding of kind of like how our databases are architected, like what can happen in parallel based on kind of where things are, and, but you don't have a technical background. It's kind of just like, you just got to think quickly, I guess, or like learn.
Yeah, I would say it's more just about understanding how things work together.
Yeah.
So like when we have one of our features being built that kind of requires another feature, it's like, all right, how can we do one without the other so we can deliver one of the features faster? Mm-hmm. It's like it's like also, so you're kind of thinking about like the big picture, but also thinking about like the small details first to see like what we need to do initially in order to build on top of later. It's like kind of thinking like through like a whole systematic approach of, all right, we have all these different things within our product now, different product areas, and how do the pieces fit together so that we can continuously keep adding value and not have to later go back and change things in order to have things work together in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think something that you've kind of brought into the fold with this role is like a level of organization. Like, so that's part of the reason why, like I would say it's, largely the reason Cam got put into this role. He's much more organized than I am. And like, we're seeing it kind of like him being brought in this role. Nothing against Louise, she's got her own way for doing things, but Cam's definitely bringing his really high precise level of organization, starting to like develop process. My man's got a Notion doc for everything, and if you try and put something in a Google doc, he's like, he'll slap your hand.
This happened yesterday. My man brought up the Google Sheets. I was like, nah, we're putting that in Notion.
Oh man, but I appreciate that. They're like, somebody's got to start that kind of process, and so I think that's why it's been great to have you. You kind of brought a different kind of different mentality into that role, and while obviously can't replace Louise, this is only temporary, and you're doing
I think great work. One thing to hit on about like the whole Notion piece, it is funny joke between us two and Keith, but just to be kind of more authentic and more transparent, I felt personally, to me at Parlor, we have like a documentation and knowledge transfer problem. Like everything, when we talk to customers, or we're talking amongst product, or I'm talking to Louise, or you're talking to Jason, like we just keep everything in our head.
Or
and
Slack.
Or Slack, which can get crazy and probably get crazier going forward with the new stuff we're trying to do. I just feel like that stuff gets lost easily. And then we've done it before. Like we're constantly thinking like, all right, like, why did we do this before? Like what did we say before, like 2 months ago? And we don't have the information stored somewhere because it's either in our head or we just put it in Slack, and then you have to search through hundreds of thousands of messages in Slack to find the answer we were talking about before. Mm-hmm. And so going forward, especially as we're adding new members to our team, which we'll get to later, I just felt like we need to have all that knowledge more centralized in a place where we can easily just find it quickly. And everything, every time we go into a meeting, we have next steps, or we have just like decisions made about either product or customers that needs to be documented and stored somewhere, so that maybe next week or tomorrow or 2 months from now, we know why we made that decision, and we don't have to kind of just go back and forth of thinking of why we made that decision and why we're so stupid to think that way in the first place.
Yeah. Like I think there's some small companies have the issue of not being able to spend money on like the different organization tools. I don't know. It's probably, it's, that was kind of our excuse at first to,
Yeah.
just, all right, we're not trying to, drop money on, Airtable or, anything more fancy to kind of keep track of things. So, but it also we've kind of just grown into, this having been a small team, being able to really
Yeah.
just transfer things over to each other and everybody kind of just, having that knowledge stored in their head. And yeah, so as you said, we're starting to grow and I don't even know how many engineers we have now.
Uh,
Don't even try.
I think 11,
11.
10, I think 10.
It's like we got one more coming maybe in the
Two
next
more
couple
coming.
weeks, two more coming. See, yeah. So, and then, real exciting breaking news. We got three folks that we're adding, 3 women to the SDR side, at an SDR role. So joining our kind of go-to-market team. And so it is becoming really apparent that, this information's just, can't live in our heads any longer.
Exactly.
We really do need to start getting better about, organizing and documenting. And, Adam, our head of marketing, VP of marketing, I think is like done the most on the management team to shepherd this through. He's definitely the most like organized and kind of meticulous about his documentation. But I think, everybody's kind of got to play their part,
Yeah.
So that's not like one huge overhaul. It's just slowly kind of everybody just doing better
Yeah.
to keep themselves accountable.
Yeah, that's the goal. Because I feel like as we start to get more people, like we won't be able to talk to everybody every week. Like even now, like I would say the last week, not this week, but the week before, 2 weeks before, I probably talked to Casey maybe once. Like, and so I reached out to her. I was like, hey, can we just have one-on-ones like every week just so I can talk to you? Because
Nice.
everything is moving so fast that, if you're working on different areas of the company, you won't always be able to talk to everybody in the company. I'm sure it won't be possible. Like, I'm sure it's impossible to maintain long term having a weekly one-on-one with everybody, but I think for now, as we're still small, it's probably nice to have.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Yeah, Casey, if you miss me, just throw some time on my calendar. I'm always here for you. I hope she gets a laugh out of that when she's editing.
Yeah, but I think going into the new hires and our big momentum builder with the GTM side, it probably is a good time to talk about you leading the charge of the customer health and making sure we're on top of our customers.
Yeah. So I think kind of one of the exciting things about growing is, you ideally sign more customers up. And as a result of that, we kind of this like little shop we have of a couple people like, Keith and I and, Cameron, kind of leading customers to success. It's going to kind of require a little bit more formality around the process, since it's not just a handful of people that we can check in on and keep track of kind of in our heads. So I've been put in charge of kind of maintaining, the customer experience and customer health, and trying to build some process around that. And this is actually kind of how Cam picked up some of his prior experience from Optum to help him with his new role. I would say this is a new role. This is just kind of like an additional responsibility I've taken on, but at Firecracker, the last company I worked on, I was actually a lot of the time was like in an account manager role. And so a huge part of that was keeping these institutional like customers happy. And so we used a health score that we kind of developed. And I was actually able to bring over a little bit of my knowledge there, which is like, one of the few times I'm like, oh, nice transferable skills. This is great. So yeah, I put together this spreadsheet to calculate a customer health score that was immediately deemed way too deep, which I knew. I was like, this is the goal. We're getting here. Identifying, so the idea of, customer health is, it's very important that you're understanding where your customers are kind of in all of these like key areas. So,
Mhm.
engagement might be one. These predictive signals is what we call them, and every company's signals are going to be different. And these predictive signals essentially help you gauge, the health of this customer. So engagement is one for us. Adoption is one for us. Kind of the relationship, general relationship. So, what does communication look like? And this is all with the goal of trying to either drive upsell or reduce churn. And so by keeping track of like each of these signals, and for engagement, there's a number of different ways that we, identify whether or not their engagement is healthy, things of that nature. So by keeping track of these on a regular cadence, we're able to understand where they are. So I don't have to update everybody every week. There's a place where they can look and see where the health of this customer was at
It's in
any
Notion.
point in time, and it's in Notion. I guess fine. And so I think that's going to be super helpful, especially as we continue to grow and we add more and more customers on, being able to look at like, who can we lean on for a testimonial, who is,
Mhm.
potentially likely to churn. These are things that you can start to try and predict and, help you kind of strategize and act accordingly by knowing all of these things in advance. So that's been exciting. Also with Cam moving into more of the engineering manager role, I kind of had to take on a little bit of his, go-to-market responsibilities. So I would say Keith and I are basically the only people who do demos at this point. And I love doing demos. They were definitely a struggle before given the state of our products, but now it's so much more enjoyable to demo the product because it just it tells a much better story. And so that's been obviously we've been getting more demos lately, which is obviously great news. Doing starting to we actually were starting to develop a little bit more of a program to help startup founders and product leaders, basically providing them with resources as kind of a little bit of a marketing and brand initiative, but hopefully get high intent leads out of that. So not a lot of different things that I've kind of started to move into, and it's just kind of based on like dealing with constant change at a company. I think the nice thing about our company is that we lean into everybody's skill sets. Cam is definitely really organized and is able to pick things up really quickly, and that's why where we needed somebody quickly to hop into this fill in this engineering manager role, he was great. And I'm also pretty good with doing demos. I have experience with dealing with customers, and so just I think that's the nice thing about startups is like everybody's very flexible. There's people have to be willing to kind of deal with this constant change, and I think it makes us better as a company, as individuals in the long run.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely want to do at least a couple demos here and there. I probably won't have time to do as many as you, unfortunately. But demos are fun. It's just I feel like seeing like live a prospect or even current customers' reaction to like the new stuff we're being built, or just showing them the overall product is like super fun to see. Just to see like
Mm-hmm.
how they think about it, if we're like completely off the mark or we're actually hitting like what we're building is actually resonating with them. I just love seeing that reaction live.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly what kind of prompted this shift in our positioning from the product discovery platform to feedback management platform. Like our sales process is run by product people exclusively for a reason. So we learn so much from these conversations,
All right.
and the sales process in general, like the onboarding process, getting people started, by having either Keith or myself, deeply involved in that process, we're more easily able to kind of extract information that we might find useful. And, that's so much of the work that we've done, like, the CSV upload work that we're working on, kind of how we're thinking through that, and then as large as kind of revising our onboarding experience. These are all things that we're privy to because of our involvement in the sales process. So, it's all interesting stuff. And I'm, I'm happy. I'm honestly glad that I'm doing this stuff. And it sounds like you're more happy doing the engineering stuff, the engineering manager stuff. So, this kind of shift in responsibilities has worked out for both of us. And at the core of everything we do is the product management work, which we're always excited about.
Yeah. Building new products is definitely what I enjoy the most. And seeing how it resonates or doesn't resonate with customers or prospects is always super enjoyable too, because it's like a challenge. Like, all right, it didn't resonate with them. Why didn't it resonate with them? Like, what did they want instead? Like, did we have bugs? Was it just a user experience issue? Was it the way we're kind of presenting information or talking about what the product does? And if they do like it, it's like, all right, what can I add next to improve their experience even more? Is like little subtle tweaks, or is it like a completely new system on top of what we've already built to kind of further their user experience as well?
Mm-hmm.
So there's
Yeah,
challenges in both.
exactly.
And then also with the new salespeople coming, that's going to be another challenge in itself.
Yeah. So I mean, a little bit about the sales folks. So shout out to Claudia, Liz, Hannah. Excited to have you. Hopefully they're listening. This is a test. They gotta listen to the
Yeah,
podcast. I
we'll
hope
send them the
they.
link to see if they listen.
With the kind of product getting to a place where we think it is showing kind of more signs of traction, we just think that we need to increase volume at this stage. Like, we don't really do a ton of cold outreach, prospecting,
Mhm.
cold calling. So we have Joe. Shout out to Joe, our co-op intern, who really hoping just turns full time instead of getting his degree. He's
Right.
been he's been doing a lot of marketing stuff, and a large part of that's been the prospecting, cold calling, stuff like that. But we really, up until this point, haven't done a ton of outbound prospecting. So this is something that we think is the timing is right. Like, the
Right.
product is in a place. It's the tone of conversations when we do have them is so different, and we're able to get people into Parlor much more quickly. So I think the next step was to just get more volume of calls and outreach out there. And so yeah, that's where those 3 hires are going to come in handy.
Yeah, and we didn't just get one person to slowly roll it along. We tripled down and got 3 at once.
Yeah. Because, like, imagine, you're just like this one lone wolf salesperson, onboarding into a new company in the middle of a pandemic, like, all virtually. Yeah, I feel like bringing on a cohort of people at once is always better than one individual.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and they can learn from each other. So the SDRs are generally earlier in their career. So we did bring on one who was a bit more experienced to help kind of lead the charge and take a bit of leadership in there. So it's nice. We always used to kind of tout ourselves as like not having a sales team, but like,
we
like,
know why they're needed.
yeah. So now we got a sales team.
Yeah, now we do. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to kind of finish today's episode about going over like how we think things might change in the second half of this year. And so in December, we can look back and see how wrong we were, or if we were actually right. If you have any high level predictions going forward, because I feel like once, like next week, we're going to be like a completely different company. Once we have the 3 new people, new family members get onboarding and out to prospecting, I feel like everything's gonna like completely change, because we're gonna have more people in the pipeline, more demos, more customers, hopefully becoming customers. So I feel like everything's just gonna completely change. Like, we're gonna be moving so much more faster, and just having everything going on at once. It's gonna be a super exciting time.
Prediction, man. I guess we're gonna have to check back in a couple months, see if these are true. But I see us tripling the number of active users we have, at the very least tripling. We got 3 SDRs, so we better triple it. So this is completely unfounded, but we're gonna triple it. No, this is kind of actually an internal goal of ours. We do actually want to triple it. So that would be We didn't say in 3 months though. So, I think perhaps by, end of Q4. But, I'd say tripling our active user population, whether they're, active free trial users or paying users, I actually don't really care. Obviously I'd love for them to be paid, but I think that, the free version of Parlor is like at a point now as well where I think it'll demonstrate the value, or kind of embedding these cliffs at really key points in the kind of value chain of Parlor, and I think that will lead to a solid percentage of extra closed deals itself. So, that I think the team. I don't think the team will actually grow significantly in 3 months. I think we're at a good size.
About 6 months.
Um, 6 months, then we're talking 6 months. If we're able to triple, like I said, and I probably won't be able to keep up with all these demos and sales calls. So maybe we'll need some sort of account executive, or somebody who can help kind of run this customer health stuff, making sure doing all these check-ins, like the amount of communication that I have back and forth with all of our key customers is that could become overwhelming. So maybe 6 months from now, bringing on a few folks who can keep up with the customers, make sure that they're getting value from Parlor. And yeah, that's those are, yeah, I don't want to say too much because we're gonna
Yeah.
check back in a little bit.
Yeah.
uh,
I would
where
say for me, I would say we'll get to a point where Keith won't have enough time to do all the product stuff and all the demos. Like
Mhm.
right now, Keith leads the charge as you should, as a lot of like the product vision and like new functionality and stuff like that. I feel like we'll get to a time where we'll get to a point where he won't have time to actually sit down and take 3 hours on a Monday to talk about the next phase of product work.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm curious. Do you see us ever hiring another management position, for like somebody on the management team for products, like as a head of products or something? No. So I honestly, I see Keith like doing fewer demos. Like he might do kind of like if it's going to help close a deal, to kind of get on a last call with somebody late in the sales process, maybe. But I don't know. I see him staying in the kind of role he is, as kind of the product visionary guy who kind of is trying to keep up to date with where maybe he won't be on top of the tasks as much.
Yeah. I was actually reading this book about like startup CEOs. I think Andrew, who's a guest on our podcast, one of his good friends wrote it. So I was reading it, and they were talking about the different types of CEOs. Like you have a sales oriented CEO, product oriented CEO, marketing CEO. Keith's obviously the product CEO, right? And
Hmm.
so you're talking about, if you have a product led CEO, um, what are the different types of like product people under him that can go about? And usually it's like there's like four types. I'm forgetting all of them, but the one of them was like a more of a execution type of head of product, or there's another one too. But I was like, yeah, depending on how we progress and depending on where Keith sees himself spending the most time as we get more customers and stuff like that, I can see him. It'd be interesting to see like what type of product person he wants, or product people he wants leading the charge under him.
Hmm.
Because I don't feel like he'll ever walk away from being involved in product stuff.
No, this is his baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and it'll be exciting to see us, hopefully getting increasingly more ownership over like large parts of the products. Like we're seeing that more and more. Like I've taken on customer experience, kind of managing the customer experience through like a product lens, as well as kind of the some of the foundational kind of quality of life improvements throughout the product. You're leading like the collect and organize charge. So I think slowly over time, over the next 3 to 6 months, they'll have to kind of leave us to kind of maintaining those experiences. Like we built them together as a team. No one person was really in charge of all of it. But as we kind of move on to bigger and better things, they'll probably establish a person who's a kind of a point of contact, or the contact, or the owner of each kind of piece of the product, which will be exciting to kind of start to be able to really dive into the metrics and look at look at like the usage patterns, understanding like really nuanced things about it, which we haven't really dived too much into at this point. So I think that's one thing I'll see us doing a lot more 3 months from now.
Yeah, I think getting to that point, I don't think it'll be 3 to 6 months, but if we ever hopefully get to the next level of Series A, Series B, I think we will have more product people that are focused on like those different areas, like you said, like the owner of collect and organize, the owner of the next pillar, whatever we call it, the owner of announce and educate, the owner of like platform enhancements, integrations, APIs, all that stuff. I think we will have eventually, if we do get to that point where we don't have bandwidth to have us two do all like the day-to-day of the different areas of our product. I think that will lead us to us probably, hopefully us two leading the charge of other PMs. I mean, that's the goal for most people, is to move into that kind of position.
Yeah. I would be, I think that, joining here, we've kind of had to work really hard and grind it out. So I think, the kind of historical knowledge that we have, and, the trust that we've built with the team would definitely set us up well to kind of, potentially lead some other product folks. We'll see.
For sure. I think that about wraps it up for us. I meant to, have like a sentence to sign off going forward, so we don't have the awkward bye everybody.
Are you gonna surprise me? Let's hear it.
But no, I do not have it.
Somebody did mention our sign-offs are a little bit awkward, so we'll work on that. But
for now, we'll just count down and say bye. 3, 2, 1, bye.
Oh God, they should have never gave us a podcast.